Opening prayer and statement of acknowledgement. Almighty God, we pray for your blessing upon this council. Help and prosper its work for the advancement and benefit of its people, so that peace and happiness, unity and justice may be established amongst us all. Amen. Manningham Council acknowledges the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people as the traditional owners of the land and waterways now known as Manningham. Council pays respects to elders past, present and emerging, and values their ongoing contribution to enrich and appreciate the cultural heritage of Manningham. Council acknowledges and respects Australia's First Peoples as the traditional owners of the land and waterways across country and encourages reconciliation between all. Manningham Council also values the contributions made to Manningham over the years by people of diverse backgrounds and cultures. I welcome all members of the public who have joined us in person and online to observe tonight's proceedings. I also recognise and welcome former councillor Dot Haynes OAM, who has joined us here in the gallery this evening. Welcome. I would also like to advise that tonight's meeting is being audio and video recorded. All care will be taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in the gallery, it is assumed that your consent is given in the event that your voice and/or image is broadcast by Council. Council meetings are conducted in accordance with our governance rules. I will introduce each item of business as listed on the agenda, calling it by number and reading the title. Then I will call for a mover and a seconder of the motion on the item before opening any debate. Only councillors are able to join the debate on an item. Councillors may adopt the officer's recommendation in the report or propose amendments and supplementary motions. The mover of the motion will have 5 minutes, a speaker to a motion will have 3 minutes, a right of reply will have 2, extension for time is another 2 minutes, and council reports and question time is 2 minutes. I would like to draw your attention to item 7 on tonight's agenda, public question time. It provides people with the opportunity to ask questions of council. Council has allocated 30 minutes for question time, and the process for public question time is set out in our governance rules. Questions may be received prior to the start of the meeting must be received prior to the meeting. Where we receive advance notice of a question in accordance with our governance rules, we will provide a verbal response to the question at our meeting. Questions we receive just prior to the meeting may be taken on notice if we don't have the information available to provide a meaningful response. If this happens, we will provide you a written response to your question within 10 working days. Our governance rules provide that we will deal with a maximum of 2 questions per person and 2 questions on any one issue. I do have the discretion to enable additional questions to be asked when received when we have a lot of questions. And we do have a lot of questions tonight. When it is your turn to ask a question, I will ask you to come forward to the lectern in the gallery. Before asking your question, you will have 2 minutes to make a brief introductory statement. If you have more than 2 questions, please submit these additional questions in writing to Council through our normal channels. To ensure an efficient conduct of our meeting and maximum participation during question time, all question and answers shall be as brief as possible and no discussion will be entered into. Councillors and the gallery are reminded that public question time is to be conducted in a respectful manner, having consideration to the diverse views of those present. Any disorderly conduct will be managed in accordance with our governance rules. Item 2, apologies and leaves of absence. There are no apology. Councillors, are there any requests for a leave of absence? Item 3, prior notification of conflict of interest. I have no prior notifications of conflict of interest that have been received. Would anyone like to give a notice of a conflict of interest? Item 4, confirmation of minutes. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Anna Chen.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the minutes of the council meeting held on 12th December 2023 be confirmed.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Michelle Kleinert. Councillor Anna Chen.
No, thank you.
All those in favour? And the item's carried. Item 5, presentation. We have a few presentations tonight, councillors. Item 5.1 is the passing of Mr Ivan Edgar Peter Budge. Councillors, it was with deep sadness that I must inform you of the recent passing of our former councillor of the City of Doncaster and Templestowe, Mr Ivan Edgar Peter Budge. Ivan served as a councillor from 1967 to 1972. Ivan was a very active member of our community. Part of his legacy was he was highly successful in relocation of the St Philip's Anglican Church. Ivan also served as the Vice President of the Doncaster and Templestowe Historical Society and played a significant role in relocation of Shram's Cottage to its current location. He also played a major role in establishing the Orchard Museum. Ivan was also a very successful fruit orchardist, leaving school to join his father on the orchard and then purchasing 20 acres of orchard land in King Street, East Doncaster in 1956. His wife of 64 years, Keitha Peter Budge, née Petty, came from a pioneer family that moved to Doncaster in 1850. At the time of his passing, 95 years old, Ivan was the longest living councillor, and it was the oldest living councillor. Councillors, at his funeral, it was acknowledged that there are still trees from his orchard land at the back of the pines that still stand today. So do I have a mover for the motion? Thank you. Thank you. And seconder? I'll second the motion. So can you please read the motion, Councillor Jeff Goff?
Madam Mayor, I move
Microphone. Thank you.
that Council place on record its sadness at the recent passing of Mr Ivan Edgar Peter Budge, record its appreciation for the contribution by Mr Peter Budge to the City of Doncaster and Templestowe and the broader Manningham community, and extend its sympathy and condolences to Mr Peter Budge's family at this very difficult time.
All those in favour? And the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 5.2, Australia Day Honours 2024. Councillors, I would like to acknowledge and congratulate 2 Manningham residents who received an award in this year's Australia Day Honours list. We have Miss Vivara Ananaziu Ianu, sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly, from Templestowe, and she was appointed as the member of the Order of Australia, AM, for her significant service to the community, particularly through the inclusion and diversity initiatives in a range of her roles. And we also have Dr. Margaret Mary O'Donnell from Templestowe, who was awarded the Medal of the Order of Australia, OAM, for her service to education and the community. I congratulate both of our residents. If we could please give them a round of applause. Item 6, petitions. we have 6.1, petition requesting council to develop a LGBTQIA+ action plan. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Chen.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the petition with 7 signatories requesting council to develop an LGBTQIA+ action plan be received and referred through to the appropriate officer for consideration. Here is the petition.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for the motion?
I second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Chen, did you want to speak to the motion?
Thank you.
Councillor Laura Main, did you want to speak to the motion? All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.2, petition calling for solidarity for Palestine. Do I have a mover? Thank you. Councillor Stephen Main.
Mayor, I move that the petition with 302 signatories requesting council to echo the solidarity for Palestine motions passed in the councils of Merribeck, Dandenong, Maribyrnong, Hume, Darebin, Wyndham and Yarra be received and referred through to the appropriate officer for consideration.
Do I have a seconder for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Thomas Lightbody. Councillor Stephen Main, did you want to speak to the motion?
No, Mayor.
Councillor Thomas Lightbody, did you want to speak to the motion? All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.3, online petition calling for solidarity with Palestine. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Thomas Lightbody. Do I have a mover?
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
I move that the online change.org petition with 1,084 signatories recorded at 11 a.m. today from the residents of Manningham and people from various locations across Australia and around the world calling for solidarity with Palestine be received and referred through to the appropriate officer for consideration.
Do I have a seconder for the motion?
I second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Councillor Thomas Lightbody, did you want to speak to the motion? Councillor Anna Chen, did you want to speak to the motion? All those in favour? Thank you, and the motion is carried. And that was item 6.3. I'll just clarify for the record. Yep. Public question time. We have received a large number of questions for tonight's council meeting. Anyone who has registered a question with council will have the opportunity to read their question or choose to have their question read out by the CEO. I will call upon those who have registered their questions to come forward to the lectern in the gallery. Our first question is from Dot Haynes, OAM. Dot, would you like to come to the lectern? And you have 2 minutes to make your introductory statement before asking your question.
How are you all tonight? Okay. I brought with me a lady who actually was feeling quite uncomfortable on Sunday at a public event, being questioned by people to sign documents, and that has made me unfortunately turn up today, as well as a number of other things that have been happening in the community. So today is a sad day for Manningham Council leadership and all councillors in front of me. The motion that has been added to tonight's agenda has taken away many people's peace over the past week and beyond, and does not belong in any councillor discussion at this table. It belongs in war room discussions and power-hungry people's agendas that want to be relevant. Not here at a council meeting at any time. As an ex-councillor, while there were many wars around the world, and at those times too, just as there's many wars going on now, at no time was ratepayers' money spent or used for such a divisive attention as this motion does. Wasting so many people's time, I feel for everyone in this community who has read the motion and has not been thought through properly and gives little consideration for the collateral damage and consequences that will happen in the future for the discomfort of many in the community, including people that are here today. Many people that are here today. This unduly already caused so much angst and makes me think that Manningham has lost the plot. It is baffling to me of the true agenda who the instigator of such a motion would be even. Hearing false rumours that well-respected organisations or individuals like myself would even want their name.
Thank you, Dot. That is time
mentioned
for
during
your
discussions.
introductory
Thank
statement.
you.
Could
The
you
question?
please ask your two questions?
Thank you. So, this coming week is World Day of Prayer Day for the Christian community, and the Manningham Interfaith Network is also working to support unity in our community with a Unity Leaders Prayer event outside at MC Square this Sunday, the 3rd of March at 3 p.m. Would the councillor who has tabled this motion tonight please consider withdrawing this motion so the community can continue to show love and respect to all of our neighbours and leaders, and that we can all live in peace together and not disunity, and not have this meeting discussed tonight. This motion, discussed tonight at this meeting.
And your
Would
second
the
question?
table consider not actually withdrawing the motion and not even having this discussion at the table tonight? That's my question.
And your second question, please.
The questions, I'll withdraw my second question at this point. I'll do that privately.
Thank you. Councillor Lightbody, would you like to respond to the question?
Thank you, Dot, for your question. In response, no, I won't be withdrawing the motion tonight. Instead, I think this is an opportunity for our communities to come together and support people who are going through this difficult period. Thank you.
My second question? Okay, because there's been letters from the rabbi and the Sikhs as well. So,
I will thank you, Dot Hayne, for your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from Frank Smith. Frank, if you're in the gallery, would you like to come to the lectern? You have 2 minutes to make your introductory statement before asking your questions. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Frank Smith, and I speak as immediate past president of the Manningham Interfaith Network. The mission of the Manningham Interfaith Network is to engender peace and unity in the community.
Sorry, Frank, can I please just stop you there, and I will go back and give you your 2 minutes to start again. I just need to remind all members of the gallery that there is no recording of this gallery without council permission. So could I please ask for all recordings? Thank you. Sorry, Frank, would you mind starting your 2-minute introductory statement again, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
My name is Frank Smith, and I speak as immediate past president of the Manningham Interfaith Network. The mission of the Manningham Interfaith Network is to engender peace and unity in the community. This is done through public education, public tours to various faith centres, and public prayer for peace day at MC Square on this coming Sunday, the 3rd of March. The Notice of Motion 15.1 on pages 154 and 155 of tonight's agenda is supported by a petition signed by citizens over the last week or so. Some of those presenting the petition to the citizens indicated that they were members of the Manningham Interfaith Network, which unfortunately is true. They were elected to the Manningham Interfaith Network at its last annual general meeting. However, their actions in proposing the petition are contrary to the network's mission of peace and unity. The discussion of the notice of motion will doubtlessly be newsworthy and will cause antagonism and disunity within the Manningham community, as was the case and a similar motion was discussed at another council meeting recently. At the February meeting of the Manningham Interfaith Network, all members were informed that they must not claim to represent the Manningham Interfaith Network when promoting issues which are contrary to its mission. In the second paragraph of the introduction, Councillor Lightbody states that we have no authority or powers in relation to international conflicts or affairs. Therefore, discussion of the motion can be seen by him, as well as the community, as a waste of Council's resources. So I urge the Council not to discuss the motion. My question, Madam Chair, is would the councillors present here tonight, whether in person or virtually, please refuse to discuss motion 15.1 shown on the agenda, and also amend its standing orders to refrain from discussing international matters which are outside its authority or powers?
Thank you, Frank. I will answer that question. Motion 15.1 has been submitted to the meeting, therefore it will be discussed later on in the agenda. Your second question, Frank?
Will the Council continue to support the Manningham Interfaith Network's Prayer for Peace Day at MC Square on Sunday the 3rd of March, which is also supported by local police and emergency services?
Thank you, Frank, for the question. I will direct your question to Lee Robinson, our Director in Connected Communities.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There, we'll have some sound. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Frank, for your question. The Manningham Interfaith Network's Prayer for Peace Day at MC Square will use MC Square on Sunday. Manningham Council neither endorses nor disapproves of activities of a religious or other nature, and an event permit is not required. Rather, we take advice from Victoria Police, who are aware of the event and have been for some time. MC Square forecourt is a public space. It's available for community use. Community groups have the right to gather peacefully in public places, and we expect that the event on Sunday will be very well organised and implemented, with support from VicPol and from other emergency services.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Frank. Our next question is from Helen. As Helen is not in the gallery tonight, I will ask the CEO to read out her questions.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll ask both questions at once. Councillor Lightbody, would you kindly explain where in the Local Government Act does it state that municipal councils, e.g. Manningham Council, can engage in or move a motion on a foreign affairs issue? And question 2 is, Councillor Lightbody, councils are known for roads, rates and rubbish. Therefore, do you believe a councillor has the right to move a motion representing a political party's agenda? If so, please explain.
Councillor Lightbody, would you like to answer the question? Sorry, Councillor Lightbody, would you like to answer the question?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Madam Mayor. To answer the first question, councils are given a wide range of ways to address all sorts of issues that concern members of our community, and I'm quite comfortable that the advocacy on behalf of a large representation of our community is well within our remit and is common amongst local government as the level of government that is closest to the people. My answer to the second question is that this is just me as a local councillor representing my community. Councillors have many roles in both service provision and advocacy that extend well beyond the narrow and incorrect view that they are only responsible for roads, rates and rubbish. Thank you.
Thank you for answering the question. And thank you, Helen, for the questions. Our next question is from Rochelle Lever. Rochelle, if you're in the chamber, would you like to come to the lectern? Thank you. Rochelle, you have 2 minutes to make your introductory statement before asking your question. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. My name is Rochelle Lever. I am another Jew who says ceasefire now. Another Jew who says not in my name. Another Jew who refuses to allow Jewish history and Jewish values to be distorted and perverted to justify ethnic cleansing, occupation, apartheid, war crimes, and now genocide against the Palestinian people. I visited Gaza just before the outbreak of war. It was heartbreaking. It is literally an open-air prison. An occupied territory by Israel now for 17 years. Israel controls their entire lives. They bomb every 3 months, but this is never reported. They turn off their electricity daily. They control the water. They control who leaves Gaza for life-saving treatment and bestow a death sentence on others. There are no jobs. There is no future for their children. I wept listening to their stories, their dreams of self-determination. But now they have no homes, no hospitals, no schools, no universities, and an even greater uncertain future. What took place against Israelis on the 7th of October was an atrocity. But an atrocity against Israelis does not justify an even greater atrocity against Palestinians, which has resulted in the killing of over 12,000 children, children that had dreams and aspirations just like our children. We need to stop politicizing and start thinking as human beings. We need to stop the killing on both sides, and the only way to do this is to have an immediate, sustained ceasefire. The world said never again, yet the world has turned its back, refuses to see the horrors that are happening daily in Gaza. Never again means never again, for anyone, anywhere. Like many other Jews, I hear in the Palestinian story echoes of my own people's heritage.
Thank you, Rochelle. Sorry, that is the end of your 2-minute
I had
statement.
3 more things to say. Could I not say them?
Could I ask you, could you please ask your question?
Okay. I would actually like to ask everybody in this room to close their eyes before I ask this question, if you may, please. Just close your eyes. Be with me. Imagine it's 1941 and you are imprisoned in Auschwitz. How do you feel? Now, fast forward to 2024 and you are imprisoned in Gaza. Can you get out? How will you survive? And how will you protect your child from imminent death and starvation? Me? I'm terrified. What about you? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rochelle, for your question. And Rochelle, thank you for your advocacy. Can I ask, our next question is from Sarah Abunda. Sorry if I didn't get that correct. Saja. Saja, would you like to come to the lectern? And you also have 2 minutes to make your introductory statement before asking your questions.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Saja, a 19 years old Palestinian who survived 2 previous aggressions on Gaza. I moved to this country 5 years ago. Israel is waging a war on women and children. 70% of Palestinians killed in Gaza by Israel's indiscriminate bombing are women and children. Every 1 hour, Israel murders 2 mothers, and every 10 minutes kills a child or injures them. Young children and women, especially pregnant and breastfeeding, are facing severe risks of malnutrition, health risks, and psychological trauma, with hospitals continuously attacked, many destroyed, food, water, fuel, medicine, and hospital supplies diminishing. Palestinian women and girls have reportedly been arbitrarily executed in Gaza, in places where they sought refuge, or while fleeing, holding white pieces of cloth, often together with their family members. Feminists across the world should be raged for what's happening to women in Gaza. However, Israel's Minister for Advancement of Women, May Golan, said, and I quote, "I'm personally proud of the women of Gaza that every baby, even 80 years from now, will tell their grandchildren what the Jews did." She also added, and I quote, "I don't care about Gaza. I literally don't care. For all I care, they can go out and just swim in the sea." Women of colour in Australia, especially in Manningham, are specifically concerned as they witness how the Australian government is complicit in supporting Israel's war on women and children. My question here is for all women councillors voting on the motion today. What can you do to stand up for the rights of women in Gaza and ensure Manningham's women of colour regain their trust and faith in the Australian government? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I'll answer it as it's directed to councillors. Councillors and staff are aware of the many community issues and also the war-torn links within the city. And I believe the question relates to the matter in the agenda, that's later in the agenda, and we will be discussing the item there. But thank you for your information and your question.
Thank you.
Our next question is from David Gawthorne. David, if you would like to come to the lectern. And David, you have 2 minutes to make your introductory statement before asking your questions.
Sorry, was that 2 minutes or 4 minutes?
2 minutes. Two.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I want to talk about a war that had not in Palestine, but rather a war here in Melbourne. I spent 26 years in the taxi industry. One of the saddest days of my life was the day that I was directed to go and pick up a guy who had killed 2 people in a train. His job was driving a train and accidentally he ran over them. My job was to take that poor man home. I was told to take him home via a pub if he wanted to get drunk, if he wanted cigarettes, if he wanted something to eat. I was to look after that man. And I had no training in that sort of situation. Then on the 15th of November, I was reminded of that episode. All of a sudden, my war was brought back to me because the reverse vending machine was delivered across the road from my home. My home of 54 years has been desecrated because of what you people have done to me. I am angry, and I think I have every right to be angry. My question is to Mr. Day, the CEO. Mr. Day, are you aware that you may be in breach of certain regulations covered under the Commonwealth Electoral Act of 1918, in which you have interfered with communications between myself and the Councillor Chen, and the other councillors, because I have tried to send out, open letters. Those have in fact been blocked as far as I'm aware. This is covered under the regulations. You may be in breach, sir, of those regulations. You could be fined or you could be in fact jailed. You are also perhaps in breach of the Commonwealth Communications Act, in which you have interfered with the communications between 2 people via the internet. I ask, are you aware of that, sir? And what are you going to do to fix it, please? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, and I'll ask the CEO to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Gawthorne, and I do appreciate that it's been quite a challenging time for you personally in relation to that matter that you referred to. I'm absolutely aware of my legal responsibilities. I'm confident that the actions that I took were necessary, that they were proportionate and they were lawful.
Thank you. Thank you. Go Palestine.
Thank you. Our next question is from Philip Zajak. Philip, are you in the gallery? No, I believe that Philip might not be in the gallery, so I will ask the CEO to read out Philip's questions.
Thank you, Mayor. The first question is, could the Mayor please tell the meeting about her interactions with the local Jewish community and her understanding of the impact of motions like this on Jewish residents? And I'll ask the second question as well. Could the Mayor please explain how the City of Manningham will make sure the area remains a safe and welcoming place for all multicultural communities, including Jewish residents?
Thank you, Philip, for your question. Since councillors became aware of the conflict, we have reached out to the rabbi of our local synagogue to offer the same support that we have offered to our local mosque. We have met with the rabbi and stayed in touch. We have offered health and well-being support to our Jewish community, the same support that we have offered to our Muslim community. We have stayed in regular contact. Through these interactions, we have tried to understand the impacts on our local residents and respond to them where appropriate. The City of Manningham prides itself on being an accredited welcoming city. And over the past few years, we have invested in many campaigns and activities to promote inclusion and to speak out against racism. We will continue to promote inclusion and support for all cultural and religious diversity in Manningham. And we all want our community to feel like they belong. It is part of our community vision. Our community vision is this: Manningham is a peaceful, inclusive and safe community. We celebrate life with its diverse culture, wildlife and natural environment. We are resilient and we value sustainable and healthy living, a sense of belonging and respect for one another. I have also made a public peace statement at the end of 2023, which is on our website and affirms to all that I am personally committed to ensuring Manningham is a welcoming place, and I know the sentiment is supported by my colleagues and many of us in our community. Thank you for your question. Our next question is from Anna Emengov. Anna is not in the gallery tonight, so I will again ask the CEO to read her question.
Thank you, Mayor. And the question is, when was the last time councillors were involved and debated in state and federal politics?
Thank you, Anna, for the question. I will again answer the question. Council considers a range of issues from time to time that are federal and state, but impact locally. For instance, tonight we are looking at our gambling draft policy, and that is normally based on a state issue, but we are considering the impacts here locally. Thank you for your question. Councillors, given the interest in the notice of motion listed on this evening's agenda, I would like to bring forth this item forward to be discussed first. So can I please have a councillor to move the motion to reorder the business on the agenda? Do I have a mover? Thank you, Andrew Connellan. If you could read the motion, please. Councillor Connellan.
I'd like to move that the order of business be amended in accordance with sub-rule 25 of the governance rules to consider item 15 notice of motion, item 15.1 notice of motion by Councillor Thomas Lightbody, NOM number 1/2024, prior to item 11, city planning on tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Do I have a seconder for the motion?
I second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Mayne. All those in favour? Thank you, and that's carried unanimously. So I will move to item 15 then, notices of motion. We have one notice of motion, that is 15.1, notice of motion by Councillor Thomas Lightbody, number 1/2024. Do I have a mover for the motion?
I move that the motion be adopted.
This motion has been submitted by Councillor Thomas Lightbody for consideration by Councillor. Councillor Lightbody has volunteered to move the motion. Do I have a seconder for the motion?
I second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Lightbody, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. This motion comes to us tonight after a strong and respectful campaign led by members of our local Palestinian Arab and Muslim communities who feel they are not being heard and that their concerns are not being acknowledged by other levels of government. This motion addresses a number of issues, first and foremost requesting that we assist our community in advocating to our federal counterparts on the issue of the atrocities that everyone is witnessing in Gaza. Secondly, it makes clear that within our amazing, diverse and multicultural community, we will not stand for any form of racism or discrimination, and in the context of this motion, specifically Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, and that nobody should be subject to either of these things due to the actions of foreign powers. For me personally, this is a very important issue, not only because I have spent a lot of time hearing the stories and understanding how it's been affecting members of our community, but late last year I took a few weeks off and briefly travelled overseas. During this trip, I happened to visit the country of Bosnia and Herzegovina and its capital Sarajevo, which is where for the first time I learnt about a war that we were not taught about in school, a modern day genocide. And in visiting the museums of genocide and the siege of Sarajevo, it was Sarajevo. It was impossible not to see the similarities unfolding all over the news that I would look at immediately after visiting these museums. While there's not much that we can do as a local government to solve this issue, what we can do is ensure that our community is supported and heard. We can support their advocacy and we can support their well-being. Since the early weeks, our community, as the Mayor has already spoken about, has been visited by the Mayor and the CEO, and they've met with both Palestinian and Jewish communities and have been provided opportunities for counselling. And we've also facilitated events run by these local communities, all of which are acknowledged in this motion. And I just want to also be rest assured that if this motion does not pass tonight, all these activities that Council is currently undertaking to support our local community will not end. And I'm very happy that I can support this community and will not simply be standing by watching. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lightbody. Councillor Stephen Mayne, would you like to speak to the motion? Thank you.
I've been a long-time supporter of Israel, along with the vast majority of Australians in the business, commercial media and political worlds. This is the first time I've had to take a public position on the situation in the Middle East, and it is as follows. Israel currently has the most aggressive, intolerant, right-wing government in its 75-year history. Over his 16 years as Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu has never genuinely or sincerely progressed the cause of Palestinian statehood or a two-state solution. He needs to go. After the terrible events of October 7, there is also no future for Hamas in Palestine. Right now, Benjamin Netanyahu is showing no mercy as he prepares to send the IDF into Rafah. As the Australian government has said, this should not happen. There needs to be a permanent ceasefire. There also needs to be an international force sent into Gaza to end the Israeli military campaign, secure the border, allow the rebuilding process to commence and deliver genuine Palestinian statehood. In terms of whether this motion is appropriate for the City of Manningham, as a group of councillors, we've been respectfully engaged for months by concerned local citizens to take a position. I agree with their analysis that the federal member for Menzies, Keith Wolahan, has taken a one-sided pro-Israel position. This is the position of the Federal Liberal Party, which filters down to all levels of government, including councils. The community is looking to this council to take a more balanced position than Peter Dutton, the local federal member, and many in the mainstream media, particularly the Murdoch press. As Paul Barry said on ABC Media Watch last week, quote, "The Australian newspapers we looked at have failed to cover the issue fairly in terms of giving equal weight to the victims of both sides. There is a clear power imbalance here. 30,000 Palestinians are dead. That's the equivalent of 1/5 of the Manningham community, and almost 2 million have been forced to flee their homes, which is more than 1/3 of the population of Melbourne. Imagine if the entire people of Melbourne's eastern suburbs suddenly all been forced to flee to Geelong. And having fled to Rafah, on the southern tip of Gaza, you've now got the IDF limbering up to invade the world's biggest displaced persons community. Where does this stop? Where does it end? How much is enough? When the IRA was bombing England, the British Army didn't invade Ireland, flatten Dublin and cause mass killings. This is about proportionality. Where is the morning after plan? This motion takes a humanitarian approach to the issue. It supports the ceasefire position of the federal government and is far more mild and balanced than motions at councils elsewhere. Just last week at Brimbank in Melbourne's West, there was unanimous council support for a motion which included words such as war crimes, atrocities and apartheid. Councillor Lightbody's motion says nothing of the sort. Focus on the reasonable words, councillors. Don't focus on what one member of the community might have said or one particular letter we've received or pressure from the local pre-selection power broker in your political party. We've received hundreds of emails from the community and more than 95% of them want us to support this motion.
Excuse me, councillor, I ask you to stop for a moment. Sorry, councillor Diamonte.
I think Councillor Mayne's comments were improper about pre-selection, Madam Mayor, and they're baseless.
Councillor Stephen Mayne, I will ask you to debate to the motion only, please. To stick to the motion. Please don't add any other detail further to politics. Please stick to debating the motion only.
Okay.
Thank you.
We've received hundreds of emails from the community and more than 95% of them want us to support this motion. For many weeks now, between 30 and 50 concerned local citizens have gathered at Keith Wildhand's Doncaster Road office each Friday afternoon and marched to council. It has been peaceful, respectful and persistent. They have earned...
Councillor Stephen Mayne, that is your 3 minutes up.
Can I ask for a brief extension, please?
Do I have a seconder? All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Councillor Mayne, you may continue for a further 2 minutes.
These residents have earned the right to at least have this motion debated so that council can take a formal position or choose not to take a formal position. Let's give the community what they want: a voice for their concerns, a more balanced position than other levels of government, and take a genuine humanitarian position to the ongoing devastation in Gaza, which appears set to get even worse in the weeks ahead and just should stop now. Let's vote in favour of Councillor Lightbody's balanced motion and join the global chorus saying enough.
I'll ask for quiet in the gallery. Thank you. I'll ask for quiet and stop of applause in the gallery. Do I have any speakers against the motion? Do I have any Councillor Andrew Conlon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's my view that this is not local government business. We don't have any influence over the federal sphere or the state sphere in regards to foreign affairs, and I don't believe we should be discussing this matter full stop. It has nothing to do...
Sorry, I'm going to have to ask for all members of the gallery to refrain from making comment. It is only councillors who can enter in the debate. Please be respectful of councillors' opinions, even if they are different to your own. Thank you.
Thank you. As I said, this is not something that we should be talking about because it does have the potential to create disharmony in our community without actually solving anything. And it has nothing to do with our personal feelings of empathy or sympathy for the people in the Middle East. It has to do with what are we authorised to do as a local government. And we should be focused on the local issues, the things that we can influence, and I don't believe we should be taking sides in an overseas dispute in any circumstance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Do I have any speakers for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Laura Mayne.
I support this motion because my heart aches for the members of our community who are suffering due to the horrendous actions that are occurring overseas. For the people in this room today who have lost friends and family, I'm so sorry for your loss. I can't even fathom what you're going through. I stand in alignment with the Federal Australian Government's concerns, and the protection of civilians is paramount and a requirement of international humanitarian law. I acknowledge that this is not ordinarily business of local government, but personally, I have come to the decision that we can adjust when our community needs us to. I also note this is a movement across the local government sector and is not just Manningham. I also strongly urge the community to deeply consider how they go about their activism. please ensure that you refrain from associating a person from a certain race or religion with a certain government or group where it is not fair to do so. I deeply condemn Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, and I urge the community to proactively work harmoniously in this incredibly difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Laura Main. Do I have any other speakers to the motion? Thank you, Councillor Diamonte.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to foreshadow that I may abstain from voting on this item as I do not believe it is local government business. This is not a motion, it's been put forward by Manningham Council. As we know, it's been proposed by a councillor and also borrows heavily from other motions delivered at other councils. I, like so many others, want to see an end to the war as soon as possible. There is desperate need for increased humanitarian support to Gaza, and it's critical that aid gets in and that hostages are released. I was also shocked and deeply distressed at the devastating events that happened on October 7. However, quite simply, this is not local government business. We have a duty of care to all our residents, our Manningham community, to defend multiculturalism and promote social cohesion. I do not believe motions like this promote social cohesion in Manningham. Multiculturalism can be easy to promote during good times like citizenship ceremonies and food festivals. However, it can be much harder to defend during times like this. When I was at the UMA Centre on Sunday, I was asked, well, if this is not your role in local government, what is your role? And I take my role in local government very seriously to represent the interests of Manningham, and I've had many meetings with our Muslim community and Palestinians, and on the back of those meetings I have done what I promised and advocated directly to our federal and state members. That's what I see as my role as a local government representative of the community, but as a councillor, this is not council business. I applaud the work of our Mayor and Council in the practical support that you've been providing to all members of our community, looking after their wellbeing and promoting harmony. And my thoughts and prayers are with all of those suffering in the community, particularly those who have lost loved ones and those who are actively involved as we speak. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have any other speakers to the motion? Thank you, Councillor Michelle Kleinert.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to thank you, Mayor, and acknowledge the work that you've done for our hurting community at this time. You've demonstrated leadership, empathy and an open mind. I acknowledge the CEO, who has also done much work over the recent time along with officers, and I thank Manningham officers for that. May I begin by saying that I do not support Councillor Thomas' light body motion. And to clarify for those that have contacted me, and to be clear, this is a motion not written by council officers of Manningham. It's not a council motion. Officers have not written the report. This is an individual councillor's right to bring their own motion to the council chamber, and that's what we have. One of the highlights of being a councillor is that there are many great events that we go to, citizenship for one, and we had one last night. It's a time where residents from around the globe gather with friends and family as they become citizens of Australia. The federal government deals with citizenship and has local governments conducting these ceremonies on behalf of the federal government. It's only because it's delegated that we perform this role. Here is part of what is read out verbatim at every citizen ceremony. In Australia, we have a 3-tier system of government. Federal government in Parliament controlling matters of national concern, the Victorian Parliament dealing with state issues, and local governments such as Manningham City Council responsible for areas of local concern. Over the last few years, when residents have come to me about issues of concern to them about homeland and wars, education, citizenship, my aged care, things that concern them, my answer was always to steer them to the level of the government where the responsibility lay. Because local government is not the authority on these particular matters. I do not believe local government should be making motions on federal issues of national concern. Councillors' decision-making is to do with issues of local concern, essentially being focused on the roads, rates and rubbish that we talk about. Our role is to support our community.
Councillor, that's time.
If I may have an extension, Madam Mayor.
Oh, sorry, no. So you've got 1 more minute. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor.
Then can I preempt an extension on that?
You can.
So I can
Thank you.
continue through?
Can I continue to go?
No, I'm asking for it now. Thank you, Councillor, from the Mayor.
Continue to speak in it. Sorry, I stopped you early. Can you please continue your speech? Yeah. What was your request? Thank you, Councillor Kleinert, because you got interrupted.
Yes, that I could move for an extension so I can't be interrupted again.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Could I please call for a mover? Oh, you're the mover, a seconder? All those in favour? Thank you. Continue, Councillor Kleinert.
Thank you. I need to find where I am. Excuse me, Madam Mayor.
That's all right.
So
Sorry,
our-
my apologies.
Councillors' decision-making is to do with issues of local concern, essentially being focused on the roads, rates and rubbish. Our role is to support community, to be welcome in our city, and I'm proud that Manningham was the first in Australia to meet the requirements due to initiatives to have in place to be a welcoming city. We're here to support community, whether it's food security, emergency relief, mental health. Manningham here is to connect community to providers. I believe that this motion has a dangerous precedent. Should it be passed, it will open the door for councillors doing motions on other federal issues, on state issues, instead of being focused on local decision-making. To be involved in political state and federal agenda, I am uncomfortable with. A motion that is divisive towards a community is not a motion I feel comfortable in. I do not feel that this council motion is balanced, and I feel it's not representative of the wider community who are affected. I was overwhelmed by feedback, so diverse in its opinion, but I'm respectful and reflected on all the emails, on all the phone calls and the angst, and I will not support this motion. I'd like to correct the community feeling that Manningham will not get involved in state and federal matters. I'm hoping the vote tonight reflects this. I was elected to represent the community, and I'm proud that we have the welcoming city status. I do find it unbelievable this has come to this council table. It will have no effect on the federal government. Instead, it has caused pain, disharmony, angst, and threats to community, and undone all the good work of our mayor, our CEO, and council officers, local police that have worked together. It is...
Point of order.
Sorry, thank you, Councillor Mayne. What's your point of order?
Mayor, I believe the councillor is making improper reflections on Councillor Lightbody and his motivations and the impact of him legally and appropriately and respectfully and after consultation bringing a notice of motion to the council for normal consideration. And I ask that she withdraw those reflections.
Councillor Kleinert, I don't believe you responded. Sorry, I will ask the gallery to please stop their applause. I don't believe you spoke. I don't believe you spoke about the intentions of the councillor in question. Sorry, I will continue with the debate. Thank you. Please continue with your debate, Councillor Kleinert. I withdraw the point of order.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just finish
I'll
with
just ask for quiet in the gallery, please. Continue, please, Councillor Kleinert.
I'll finish with, in that case, Madam Mayor, my hope is that the outcome of this voting tonight, you will continue, along with council officers, in supporting the needs of the whole community, whatever their need is, to connect them to service, to keep reaching out as you have done, and I thank you for that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have any other speakers to the motion? Councillor Jeff Goff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And firstly, I'd like to offer my heartfelt condolences to any person that has experienced personal loss and grief from the situation in the war between Israel and Palestine. Secondly, I'm very proud of the outstanding work that the Mayor, councillors, officers and the CEO have done to reach out to our resident communities, offering support and assistance, particularly those most connected to the conflict, and I look forward to the continuation of us working together into the future for that. This formal declaration of war on the 7th of October 2023, following a mass killing and terror attack of civilians and taking civilian hostages by Hamas, has set up a situation that we have today. There's continued fighting on both sides now in densely populated areas, tragically resulting in many thousands of more civilian casualties. Yes, people caught up in war. For the people caught up in war, there are no winners. Throughout history, how lucky we are in Australia. Australia has always been a country of migration. People from all parts of the world have chosen, not forced, maybe in the century before, but since we became Australia, has chosen to come here for a better life. We've all chosen or either decided to stay here in the full knowledge of what Australia is. Its rights, its freedoms, and its opportunities that we have here in our functional Westminster parliamentary system. It allows things such as peace and freedom of speech and freedom of belief that don't exist in quite a number, if not a majority, of other countries in the world. The issues and reasons of people sought refuge in Australia should never be forgotten. The reasons they came to this wonderful place should never be forgotten. And we, especially in Manningham, are one of the best examples of a successful, multicultural community with everybody living in harmony.
Councillor Goff, that is time.
Oh, well, if I may have an extension, please.
Does someone... Thank you. All those in favour? Sorry, mover, thank you. Seconder, thank you. All those in favour? You have a further 2 minutes. Thank you, Councillor Goff.
There are recently, however, examples of harmony being upturned by external events that strain the peace and well-being of our community members in Manningham. It's unfortunate that this has come up as a motion, as it's already inherently created divisiveness. Instead of promoting peace in Manningham, it's igniting division and creating sides and unease in many ethnic and faith communities within Manningham. This motion is not a council-generated motion. There's no officer research and there's no research in here for it. There's no report for discussion. It's an individual council-generated motion, only putting up in a two-sided situation, and there's a whole community, so there might be three views of this, only putting and talking to one side of it for a balanced motion from council. This is not the first time that the Greens Party playbook has been presented to this council, and it also seems to be pushed by a special...
Being consistent, I'm going to have to make the point of order, please.
Yes, I was just going to say, Councillor Stephen Mayne, what's your point of order, please?
Being consistent with your earlier ruling about external references to political parties, I'd ask you to rule that comment out of order, like you did before, and for it to be withdrawn, please.
What did you say about MPs and the Liberal Party?
Thank you. Councillor Jeff Goff, I will ask you to stick to debating the motion and the motion only. The motion does not make reference to a political party, so I would ask you to not do so either. Thank you.
But I was referring to previous things that came out, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Goff,
I was referring to previous councillor motions that actually came here.
Yep, Councillor Goff, please keep debate.
And it also seems pushed by interest groups with versions that have run through a number of councils throughout Australia. More recently, one of note, the Melbourne City Council. From Federation in 1901, the power to engage in international diplomacy, foreign affairs and international relations in the United Nations resides in the realm of the federal government. Contrary to popular belief, local government is not an independent level of government, nor does it have the status of in our federal constitution. It's always subservient to state and federal laws and policies, and in reality, council's been given some powers. We here as councillors need to make decisions for our local area. Although we talk about our community...
Thank you, Councillor Goff, that is time.
Well, the
Thank
motion
you.
doesn't really actually
Do I have any other speakers to the motion? Thank you, Councillor Anna Chen.
I actually very torn by the motions, but I also recognize that as any councillor has very right to raise a motion. It doesn't really have to be an officer's recommendation. So I support, for that reason, and I support Councillor Lightbody's every right to raise a motion. And so far, I have received more than 200 emails urging passing the Palestinian solidarity motion. Although the vast majority emails contain the same content, still it was very emotional whenever I research emails. To those 204 senders, especially those who have relatives and friends affected by the conflicts, my heart calls out for you, and I feel your pain and distress. But our democratic process means the councillors come from diverse sections, including me, of the community, and hold different views, and hold a variety range of views. However, once elected, councillors must act in the interests of the whole community. Councillors are required to have open mind. That is why I said that I have been torn between the two, whether pro or against. With that in mind, so personal agenda, party politics, biases, emotions, or assumptions have never had any place in my decision making. I remember that my first meeting with Omar Centers with the mayor and the local Palestinian community representatives on 24th November 2023, and several catch-ups afterwards. In the past 3 months, I had also been reaching out and engaging with people from different walks of life. Often, they are the silent majority and the unheard voices. This has always been a very important part of my decision-making process. All the people I spoke to told me they are against all military attacks targeting civilians, and agree that there is a clear power imbalance there. They all support peace, humanitarian aid, and human rights. But in terms of the motion, some of them told me that they are not sure whether there is a focus for council to put a motion on that issue. That they just say that they are not quite sure. So, and they told me that any concerns perhaps maybe should be directed to the representatives in Canberra.
Councillor Chen, that's time.
I asked for extension because it's very
Do I have a
important.
mover? Thank you, Councillor Domonto. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Conlon. All those in favour? And that's carried. You have a further 2 minutes. Thank you, Councillor Chen.
Any concerns should be directed to our representatives in Canberra, not through a council motion, which I completely agree. And but I'm also very mindful that this is a local issue. I agree, but I also recognize that the impact of our local Palestine community, and they feel that their voices had not been heard. So I again just have another look of Councillor Lightbody's motion, and I really think that this is a time perhaps we should support Councillor Lightbody's motion just to write to the our Palestinians, just our representatives in Canberra, to address our local communities' concern because they haven't been heard. For that reason, again, it is a very hard decision for me to make, and I have to weigh the pro and con and the balance of the whole community's interest and how they feel about the motion. For that reason, I have to say that I support Councillor Lightbody's motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillors, I will also speak to the motion. So I also mourn the loss of civilian life and civilian lives, and acknowledge the trauma that this has had at a local level. I also acknowledge our local government and that we have no authority in the powers in relation to international conflicts or affairs. Nevertheless, I do condemn violence and racism towards anyone and everyone. Therefore, I do acknowledge and support our federal government's call for humanitarian relief to all civilians and for a peaceful end for violence. In line with this, as a local government authority, it is within our remit to advocate on behalf of our residents and to ensure they are heard and they are supported through times of crisis, acknowledging the community's pain due to world conflicts and crisis. That is why I have gone out of my way to meet with community members and offer practical support. This is included but not limited to offering fortnightly meetings with the Mayor, counselling services to those residents impacted via Doncare, and I've made offers to council partners who provide food bank items and worked with the local police to address and condemn any signs of discrimination in our community. Councillors, it is essential to emphasise the importance of peace and well-being for individuals and groups impacted here in Manningham, because we are a welcoming city. Thank you. All those in favour of the motion? My apologies. Councillor Lightbody, you were the mover and you have a right of reply. Would you like to close? Sure?
Yep, I'm okay, thank you.
Okay. So if the mover would not like to close, I will put that to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? That is Councillor Anna Chen, Councillor Stephen Mayne, Councillor Thomas Lightbody, Councillor Laura Mayne. All those against the motion? That is Councillor Michelle Kleinert, Councillor Carly Lang, Councillor Jeff Goff, Councillor Deirdre Diamonte and Councillor Andrew Conlon, and that is not carried. Thank you. I would just like to pause the meeting to offer a time for those who would like to leave the gallery. I remind councillors that we are still, and excuse me to all members of the gallery, if you would like to leave, you may now. And thank you for your advocacy. You may leave now. Thank you. Thank you. We ask you to leave, and those who would like to remain in the gallery, please do so with respectful listening. Thank you. Thank you. I ask you to leave the gallery. Could you please leave the gallery, or I will ask you to be helped to leave the gallery. Thank you. Could you please leave the gallery? To all members of the gallery, could you please leave the gallery so we can resume our meeting? Councillors, I will adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes. If you could please leave the chamber so we can let our gallery exit if they wish to. Thank you. I adjourn the meeting for a 5-minute period. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. I resume our February council meeting and I move to our next item on the agenda, which is item 8, omission of urgent business. Councillors, there are no items of urgent business. Item 9, planning permit applications. There are no planning permit applications that are required a decision of council this month. Item 10, city planning. There are no city planning reports. Item 11, connected communities. Item 11.1, Health and Wellbeing Action Plan 2024 to 25. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Chen.
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Do I have a seconder? I actually second the motion. Councillor Chen, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Under the Public Health and Wellbeing Act 2008, Council is required to prepare a municipal public health and well-being plan to protect, improve, and promote public health and well-being within Manningham. Council endorsed our own health and well-being strategy at the October 2021 meeting. The strategy is operated through 2 biannual action plans. Several priority groups were identified during the development of the strategy. They include people from specific age groups across the lifespan, people with disability, people experiencing economic disadvantage, multicultural communities, people of different genders, people who identify as LGBTQIA+, and First Nation people. These groups of people are at great risk of experiencing poor health and well-being outcomes across each of the areas. Action Plan 2021 and 23 was endorsed in June 2022 meeting. The action plan was designed to make meaningful impact on the health and well-being of our residents, including the priority groups identified in the strategy. And it was expected to span across the whole 4-year life of the strategy due to the broad and complex nature of some of the actions. Action Plan 2024-25 planning commenced in September last year. Council conducted workshops with the Youth Advisory Committee and Health and Wellbeing Advisory Committee to identify shared priority health areas and any relevant emerging issues. For example, vaping among young people. These actions cover 7 priorities areas. For example, improved social and emotional well-being, increased healthy eating, increased active lifestyle, increased adaptation to the health impacts from climate change, reduce injury and harm, prevention of violence, and increased connection and engagement in community life. 26 actions will be carried over from the previous action plan. 3 actions were identified. They are the food security for Manningham residents. In the area of prevention and violence, use the free from violence framework to guide actions and build partnership. Also support the Manningham multicultural network. Tonight, the 2024-25 action plan is tabled for endorsement. If endorsed, the action plan will be monitored every 6 months and reported back to Council annually. Although there is no legal requirement for the action plan to be submitted to the Department of Health, the tabled action plan will be submitted to the department for noting once endorsed. As best practice, we always committed to our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. I will also speak to the motion. I just want to congratulate the team on our health and wellbeing plan. There's a lot of work that has gone into it, and the actions are all to address the health and wellbeing of our city and to also help with our becoming a welcoming city. So I thank the officers for the health and wellbeing plan, and I encourage fellow councillors to support it. Do I have any speakers against the motion? Do I have any more speakers for the motion? Do I have any speakers to the motion? If there are no other speakers, I will put that to a vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 12.2, Manningham Draft Gambling Policy and Action Plan 2024. Do I have a mover for the motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Stephen Mayne. Do I have a seconder for the motion?
I second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Laura Mayne. Councillor Stephen Mayne, did you want to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. So I'd like to welcome this draft updated gambling policy. The last one expired in 2017. I'd like to thank all the officers who put a good deal of work into this, gone to our various committees to seek consultation and advice. The policy will be out for consultation for 4 weeks and is scheduled to come back to the May 28 council meeting. There's a big education focus in the policy, a focus on more prevention along with education. It also is full of very interesting data. It notes that the 60 million that is lost at the 6 venues that we have, pokies venues that we have in Manningham. It also lists where all the various TABs are. It talks about the importance of council's role in engaging with sporting clubs, for instance, and where as the landlord can be influential with education and requirements. For instance, our community grants program does not provide any grants to gambling outfits. I'd note that in the community, for instance, the Harp of Erin, a pokies venue in Boroondara, used to be a sponsor at multiple clubs with its signs up, and I know that Fitzroy Doncaster Cricket Club, for instance, has made a conscious decision that they no longer wish to be associated with and sponsored by a pokies club, so they are out of that arrangement. No longer have to have any of their events up there as part of the sponsorship. I have to admit that in terms of how we could turn things around, 10 years ago, this council introduced a double rate on poker machine venues, which raised an extra 100 or 200 grand in revenue, influenced potentially the Warrandyte Hotel's decision to get out because it was going to cost them more rates if they were still in, and then the state government, the Liberal government changed the law and councils were no longer allowed to do differential rates on gaming venues, so that no longer became a tool that was available. I know that we've contracted with the Richmond Football Club to run Aquarena and 20 basketball courts, and that we've encouraged them to, at some point over the course of the contract, to exit their pokies venue at the Bonturna Club, and they've sent signals that is what they are endeavouring to do over the short to medium term. I note that the recent closure of the Yarra Valley Country Club last year did reduce us down to one less venue, which was good as well. Over the consultation period, I must say that the one thing I think we could possibly lean in any tweaks in the final policy would be this idea that council would be a sponsor of sporting clubs that were proudly gambling free, that agreed not to have the reverse raffle, that agreed to have speakers like the SALT equivalent come in and speak to the juniors about the importance of being gambling free, and might have a sign. So the Wonga Orchard Skiing Club might have a sign that says Wonga Orchard Skiing Club is proudly gambling free. A big sign, we give them $2 grand, whatever, we sponsor them to get that message out. Because you can run very good campaigns with all the land we own, the signs, you can put up billboards with sporting clubs. In terms of education, that I think is an opportunity we could potentially lean into a bit more in the final version of the policy. But overall, I'm really pleased that the officers have put in such a good effort with the consultation and the comprehensive data in here. Look forward to seeing the consultation that comes in. I'm very pleased, and the report notes that the state government has moved recently on poker machines with mandatory closures of venues from 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. and reducing the pre-commitment amounts from $1,000 to $100. It is a state government area. We do have planning influence over gambling. There's no suggestion of new planning applications coming in. Our planning laws are, I think, suitably appropriate in terms of not encouraging more pokies venues to open. Online gambling is obviously a massive challenge for everyone and very much harder for councils to get involved in. Obviously, you can't jump on gambling apps, within the staff or in our libraries. Those sorts of policies are already in place. But it's an important area. We are the world's biggest gamblers. It's 25 billion a year, world's biggest in per capita terms. Majority of that is poker machines. It is a tragedy. It causes enormous social harm, and it is important that local government has policies in this area to do our bit to try and reduce the harm of gambling in the community, and part as the broader sort of health and wellbeing strategy that we have for the community.
Thank you, Councillor Mayne, and I will clarify that is item 11.2 because I did forget to mention the item number. So you just spoke to 11.2, our Manningham draft gambling policy and action plan. And Councillor Laura Mayne, did you want to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I am so excited that this great piece of draft policy is coming to Council. Gambling is such a rampant and troubling concern in our community. Personally, I think the two biggest groups of concern are the young boys with online gambling and sports betting and being addicted from a young age with these phone app games teaching you to be addicted to gambling. And I know so many young people, unfortunately young boys, who have gambling problems already, as well as the older women who are facing domestic violence, who have no other safe places to go at 4 a.m. in the morning, apart from the warm, safe and lit pokies venue where they give them free drinks and food. So I think, it's a very deeply troubling issue. This policy has really multifaceted and considered approach to tackling the gambling harm in our community. So it considers the education piece of gambling, having alternate spaces and programs to replace gambling, the opportunity the council has through its existing touch points like leasing agreements, maternal child health, our healthy ageing teams, etc. What we can do from an advocacy perspective, as Stephen Mayne did mention, Councillor Stephen Mayne, this is a state government issue primarily, and then the planning regulations that we are able to introduce. So overall, I think it's fair to say this is generally a very deep-seated and difficult issue to tackle in our community, but I am proud of the way this policy has brainstormed numerous different avenues and strategies to do the best that we can. In regards to that brainstorming, I do think this policy had particularly great consultation so far with our committees and coming to the councillors individually. Personally, I sit on the youth and gender and LGBTQI committees, which were two that this one came to. I think the officers did a particularly great job with their workshops and really getting the most out of the group, and overall has led to what is a great piece of policy in my opinion. So I'd like to thank the officers for their great work, especially Janae Scott and Felicity Rapper. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Romain. Do I have any speakers against the motion? Do I have any other speakers for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Lightbody.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just really happy with this motion. And I'd really like to thank the officers for the work. They've done extensive engagement with us over multiple sessions, both as a group all together, but also in smaller groups, I think 2 or 3 people. And I think that provided the opportunity for everyone to, ask questions and thoroughly discuss the issue and what the officers were proposing. And I'm really happy that council land will no longer be used to advertise any sort of gambling or gambling venues. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any speakers to the motion? If I have no other speakers, I will just speak. Did you? No, I will just speak to the motion. I just wanted to thank the team, the advocacy work that has gone into this draft motion by going through our Manningham advisory committees, and just the awareness that the advocacy and meeting with our advisory committees has brought to the table about what do we traditionally see as gambling and what could we see as indirect gambling. And it's been very eye-opening, and I know the advisory committees themselves have learnt a lot and have given suggestions and made an impact on the draft policy. So I welcome it going out to community consultation. Councillor Stephen Mayne, did you want to close the motion? So with no other speakers, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Item 12, City Services. 12.1, Quarterly Capital Works Status Report, Quarter 2. Do I have a mover?
I'll move, Madam Mayor.
Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Connellan. Councillor Jeff Goff, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And basically, this is a report that we do get, as it says, quarterly. And it just gives us an update consistently on how we're actually going as far as our capital works program is concerned. Over a past number of years, we have had difficulties expending that particular money over the time within the 12-month period. And it's a very difficult thing because often anything in a capital works, and if it's building or whatever, doesn't actually fit into a normal flow. I suppose one of the things in reading the graphs, and the graphs are very handy to look at, is that not so much that it's the expenditure in January and February, December, January, is down in a lot of them, except for a couple. But it's good to know that the areas of drainage and roads and sports grounds redevelopment and streetscapes and the early years programs has been rocketing ahead, spending lots of money. So I'm sure that by the end of the year, I hope that by the end of the year, that they will be able to be completed and be ready to start the next lot for the next budget and being prepared to get into it. But there were a lot of underspends so far in a 6-month period, and some of them, community facilities, the open space area, and parks. And I don't know the reasons why. Also, I just wanted to, on the bus shelter program, and it's sort of a bit of a question that maybe could be answered. It's pretty sort of sticking at zero. Are we going to be spending that money this year, or is it going to go to some other time? And the tech program, are we waiting for something because only a small percentage of that has been spent? And are we spending it all at once because there's a lot being committed? Is that all coming at once at a particular time? So if I can get that, doesn't have to be right now, but just on that. But it is in most cases saying that we are on track in a good proportion of the things, and I think each year as I look at these as it's going through, we are getting better at getting things done, because the graphs used to look like empty until Easter and then it'll all be spent. So I think if we can even it out over the year, that's a lot better. So thank you very much for that report.
And thank you, Councillor Jeff Goff. Did you have those 2 questions that you wanted answered? You had
well,
2 questions.
Yes, I did, but we can clarify that later because I think that it's take looking up.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Andrew Connellan, did you want to speak to the motion? Thank you.
Yes, well, this is, as Councillor Goff mentioned, I think we have done a lot better. I think it's great to see that the program that we've put in place to actually get projects in the drawer, I think was the term we used a while back, where a manager started and there was nothing in the drawer to kick off. So now we have a good program of works happening, and I'm very confident with this level of detail in the reporting that we are actually finally going to get within QE of our actual budget for capital works this year. And I do note that the report does say that specifically, that that's the expectation, that we'll be very close to the budget by the end of the financial year. So I would like to congratulate the officers involved in all of that program and the finance team, obviously, for monitoring that, and congratulate the team in terms of achieving a great result. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Connellan. Do I have any speakers against the motion? Do I have any speakers for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Stephen Mayne. I saw your hand first.
Thanks, Mayor. So this is actually a report for the 7 months to Jan 31, which is a bit unusual, but I thank the officers for taking the opportunity to provide more up-to-date data than the law required. So I think it's good that we've got that, although it is different with our upcoming quarterly report, which is to December 31. So some of the figures don't line up. But We have spent 41% of our $53.86 million budget in the first 58.3% of the year. So there still is the usual challenge of the cap works spend being back-ended, often most heavily into the June quarter. There's some interesting data in there. We don't get a lot from state and federal government. We're pretty much on our own when it comes to funding this community, but we are budgeting to receive $5.156 million from external parties, so state, federal, club contributions, etc., and we've only received $821,000 so far. So looking forward to a rush of grants from different levels of government towards the back end of the year. Good to see the CEO memo in December has, in terms of budget changes, an extra or $500,000 into the Jackson Court safety investment and also into the Macedon Square safety and upgrades, which I think have been very much welcomed by both communities. Fantastic to see the Deep Creek Pavilion, after a $3 million spend, opened on the weekend. It's an incredible facility, and it would be great if they had a second diamond nearby at some point. Great to see that the $100,000 investment in the Sheehan's Road air conditioning will happen in the second half of the year after an excellent budget submission last year. The bus shelters program, only $3,449 spent so far with a budget of $375,000. So we need to get our skates on with the bus shelter program. Hepburn Road, similarly, we're budgeting to spend $2.3 million, our wonderful new park, after we bought 4 properties, and we've only spent the $90K so far, so it will come with a rush in the second half. We're about to spend $1.2 million on the great new playground at Ruffy Lake Park, and it's fantastic, all the different work that has been done, delivering on the long-term plan for Ruffy Lake Park, with the major sort of last one to go after the playground being the bridges and boardwalks investment, which is mentioned in the budgets. We do have a bit of a lesson that some projects are getting more expensive. So the Wood Street Templestowe pavement program ended up costing a lot more than we thought. Same with the Templestowe Tennis Club tennis courts. So the reality of our capital works program is we're probably going to do less projects with the same amount of money, because an individual project is costing more just with escalation of costs, cost of living, and the like. It is also quite hard to spend $55 million a year if you don't have a big project, a sort of a 10, 15, 20 million. Aquarina at $23 million over the next few years will be our next upcoming big project, but it is, quite challenging to spend that much money when you are doing mainly
Councillor, that's time.
Projects. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Laura Main, did you want to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just going to make a brief comment that not only is this report encouraging that we are on track, but I just wanted to thank the officers for the great detail they provided us, as well as the transparency, because now not only are us as councillors fully up to date about how we're going, but I'm glad to see that the community is also fully up to date. Thank you, that's all.
Are there any other speakers to the motion? Thank you, Councillor Anna Chen.
Can't help but give special mention to the Infrastructure Project Management Office team. And they are responsible for planning and that increase the governance and the transparency and the data provision. And I think that is really important. And also, I can't help but make special mention about the budget of $811 million over 10 years. And that is a significant amount of money. I often say that, well, where's our ratepayers' money goes? And that is every single dollar contributed to the $811 million over the whole 10 years program. And that is for the infrastructure that you can see, you can touch, you can feel once you step outside your gate, your main gate and your garden and up to the public space and enjoy it. It's for the whole community. So your ratepayers' money never wasted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Do I have any other speakers to the motion? Councillor Jeff Goff, would you like to close?
No.
And if there's no other speakers, I'll put that to a vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Item 12.2, Cyclic Block Pruning and Tree Maintenance Contract Award. Do I have a mover for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Conlon.
So I'd like to move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Jeff Goff. Andrew, Councillor Conlon, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I would.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, councillors, this is this is a really important contract that we are, or a tender that we're accepting here. I'd just like to note, though, that it's good that we've delegated the job of choosing these people to the CEO, and because we wouldn't want to get involved in that level, and I do appreciate the good purchasing policies that we have in place to make sure that we get best value for money on all these types of things. So we obviously have to approve this, councillors, because it's over what we can delegate to the CEO. So yeah, it's a large contract over a number of years, and it is one of the most important contracts because we have 90,000 trees floating around Manningham on our land, and we do have a responsibility to take care of them, particularly in bushfire-prone areas. And a lot of this is to do with the line clearing that we are obligated to do. So it's in terms of contracts, in terms of services that we provide as a council, it is a critical service, I would say, and I therefore wholeheartedly endorse it. Thank you.
Councillor Jeff Goff, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, Madam Mayor.
Do I have any speakers against the motion? Do I have any speakers for the motion? Do I have any speakers to the motion? Councillor Andrew Conlon, would you like to close? If there's no other speakers, I'll put that to a vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Item 13, experience and capability. Item 13.1, our 24 to 25 deliberative panel. Do I have a mover of the motion? Thank you, Councillor Michelle Kleinert.
That the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder to the motion? Thank you, Councillor Stephen Mayne. Councillor Michelle Kleinert, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As we now enter into our final year of our council plan, council needs to start preparing for the next council and the next council plan. The 2020 Act, Local Government Act of 2020, included a community panel that was quite broad in its remit. Council in 2021 responded to that and had 40 residents from right across our municipality participating. In fact, tonight the Mayor read a portion of a statement that was actually put together by that community panel and has, throughout the last few years, a few times come to the council chamber because it was a great statement that they'd put together. So this is about the next community panel, and council is basically endorsing the implementation for an extended deliberative panel. So we're investing more because we want to make sure that we continue listening to our community about those the remit of local government and get it right. We've already started that process, going out and getting feedback. We've had some really great response, which really helps us as we deliberate for those key strategic documents leading up to the next council plan. So this is really just, well, I suppose to some extent it's a budget line also, and we're putting more money into that to just really make sure that we listen and we get it right to make that council plan, the next one, as good as this one, if that could ever be the case. But yes, it's been good work, and I say thank you to the officers that have worked on this to put it together, taking into account that they did such a successful first panel, community panel. It went really well, and so I want to say once again thank you for that, because it was a good success, and hence we'll see, I'm sure, the next one to also be.
Thank you, Councillor Kleinert. Councillor Stephen Mayne, did you want to speak to the motion?
Yes, well said, Councillor Kleinert. I'm really pleased that the officers, without any prompting by the council group, has lent in on the idea of the community panel and not just done the legislative minimum, which is that you must have one in place at the start of each council term to advise and provide input into your key strategic documents. So giving some budget and setting up a panel this year before the election, which will be more randomly selected than our last one, and the more randomness you can have to get a genuine cross-section of the community, not just your usual squeaky wheels, is very important. So I'm looking forward, I like the idea that we're going to embrace the randomness model more, that we're going to do some additional project work. It might be, say, for instance, as mentioned in the report, it could be some advice on our residential strategy. We will be in charge of the topic selection, and we have said in the budget we're talking about 150,000 for 24-25. So budget and topic selection are very important things in this concept. And I will say that citizen juries, a lot of people believe this, and I agree with it, that it is the single most positive and uplifting democratic strategy to turn around the decline in popular support for democracy, the move to extremism, and the support. 25% of the world are now sympathetic to having a strong man running their country rather than democracy. And it's really worrying. And this model, which is corruption-free, lobbyist-free, is being embraced all over the world. So the Belgians have a national body that sits above the parliament, and it actually has power to set agendas, to pick topics. So that's probably the most globally advanced model. City Kingston, City Mornington Peninsula have got standing advisory committees for their council, so they can just sit there the whole time and look and advise on the council how they do it. So we're not going to be too radical with this. We've got to go with the program, but I'm really pleased. I do think it is a great model. The people who get involved often become great civic participants because of what they learn, and it just provides genuinely independent advice to the elected reps, and is often a great way to wrangle through difficult decisions. And the most famous and best was the way that Ireland, with all its history, was able to embrace legalising abortion, a fraught issue, after a really comprehensive citizen jury process that recommended that the Parliament do that after a deep dive on all the issues. And so I think it's a great model, and I'm really glad we're supporting it. So thanks to the officers for doing that.
Thank you, Councillor Mayne. Do I have any other speakers? Do I have any speakers against the motion? Do I have any speakers for the motion? Do I have any other speakers to the motion? Councillor Michelle Kleinert, would you like to close? With no other speakers to the motion, I'll put that to a vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Item 13.2, Manningham Quarterly Report, Quarter 2, from October to December 2023 to 24. Do I have a mover for the motion?
So moved.
Councillor Stephen Mayne, thank you. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Andrew Connellan. Councillor Stephen Mayne, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, and I'd like to start by sincerely thanking the officers for embracing some new transparency and disclosure measures in this report for the first time, most notably adding in the CEO's KPIs into the document where they are relevant, because the CEO's KPIs is something that the council or group uses to drive the actions of the council along with the council plan, and so it is relevant to insert that into the document. And on specific transparency, breaking out the revenue we're getting from Richmond Footy Club, Align Leisure, managing Aquarina and our 20 basketball courts, which if you look in the document, it's running at about 35,000 a month, or just over 400,000 in the current financial year. And similarly, breaking out for the first time the rent we're getting from Manicare for occupying land and buildings that we own on Manningham Road, which is disclosed in the document at 528,000. So these are material items, and they deserve being broken out. They shouldn't just be put up in some rent figure and not have any transparency. So thanks to the officers for doing that. In terms of the report, obviously the higher interest rates with our 81 million in the bank, the higher interest rates we're running at, we're going to get $500,000 more in interest than we thought. We thought we'd get 1.6, we're going to get 2.1. That's probably the biggest positive. On the negative side, we know that capital works is much more expensive. We're going to finish 219,000 below on parking revenue. Quite challenging finding parking officers. Our net assets is up 60 million for the 6 months to a record 2.72 billion. So we're in a very strong financial position. One that surprised me, that we received 1.13 million from the state government for the sale of some of our land on Fitzsimmons Lane for the $130 million project down there. Thank you for the state government for that. It's not all cost shifting going the wrong way. And also the other transparency piece is we're breaking out our waste charge revenue from the rates revenue in the quarterly report. So this report notes that we're going to get 104 million from rates and a very chunky 17.5 million from the waste charge in the current financial year, after we've put it up by about 20% over the course of this term. So the total is 121.5 million from waste charges and rates, with 14.4% of that total coming from the waste charge. And that is an interesting debate for us as to the mix. I know the state government is sending quite a few unsubtle messages about encouraging councils to not move on their waste charges, and that's a deliberation we'll have to have in the upcoming budget. But overall, you've got to admire the transparency of local government coming out quarterly with this level of data. We've added a lot to our quarterly report over the council term, including listing all the developer contributions that come in. And we've seen, again, we used to get a reliable 6 million a year from our open space levy, or effectively the subdivisions tax. And so far we've only received 1.89 million, and it's probably going to come in at maybe 4 and might even be written down permanently. So that is just difficult, expensive construction. It's also probably Doncaster Hill being largely built out. There is not that many empty sites for big growth. But when we talk about housing crisis and local government's not doing enough, we are issuing a lot of permits, or we have issued a lot of permits, and the biggest issue is just the cost of construction, labour supply issues, building supply issues, and it's just, developers are just not building. And we are seeing it quarter after quarter, where we're finishing well below our revenue projections, which is a bit of a sad sign, because that says that the economic activity we need to deliver more housing is not coming through, and that's part of the broader challenge of a housing affordability crisis and a lack of supply, which is a national issue and is an issue in Manningham, as borne out by the figures in this quarterly report.
Thank you, Councillor Stephen Mayne. Councillor Andrew Conlon, did you want to speak to the motion?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. This is another good report about how we're going. It is great to see the customer service starting to be reported, customer experience in there. And I do note that it's great to see statutory planning still kicking goals. 93.1% of standard applications decided within 60 days. It's must be top of the heap, I think. And yeah, as Councillor Mayne said, it's good to see those extra few levels of detail in there. And it's another interesting one I found in here was the bin inspection that they've done since introducing FOGO, that where contamination is around 4 or 5%, and other councils vary between 5 and 20%. So congratulations to the residents of Manningham for keeping our bins reasonably on track in terms of what it contains, despite the challenges that many face in terms of trying to fit all their rubbish in one bin. I'm not sure if people know that they can actually just ring up council and say, I can't fit everything in my red bin, can you give me another one, and I'll pay the whatever it is per annum. So, that's what I tell people when they tell me, when they've run out of neighbours to go around and put it in. So yeah, so it is. I think that's something that we could improve in terms of our communication. But it is great. Yeah, it's a great job. It reflects a great job by the team, and congratulations once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Do I have any speakers against the motion? Do I have any other speakers for the motion? Do I have any speakers to the motion? Councillor Stephen Mayne, would you like to close? If there's no other speakers, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Item 14, Chief Executive Officer. Item 14.1 is the appointment of the authorised officers, Planning and Environment Act 1987. Do I have a mover for the motion?
I move that the recommendation be adopted, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Diamante. Do I have a seconder for the motion?
I second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Councillor Laura Main. Councillor Domonte, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Laura Main, would you like to speak to the motion? If there's no other speaks to motion, I'll put that to a vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Item 14.2, informal meetings of councillors. Do I have a mover for the motion?
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Laura Main. Do I have a seconder to the motion? Thank you, Councillor Michelle Kleinert. Councillor Laura Main, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Michelle Kleinert, would you like to speak to the motion? If there's no speakers, I'll put that to a vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Item 14.4, documents for sealing. Do I have a mover?
I move that the recommendation be adopted with the addition of the following agreements: Deed of Surrender, Council and Early Childhood Management Services, Inc., Part 96 to 106 Swanson Street, Templestowe Lower; Community Services Lease, Council and Warrandyte Community Association, Inc., Part 168 to 176 Yarra Street, Warrandyte; Consent to build over an easement agreement under Section 173 of the Planning Environment Act 1987, Council and Welkin Hardware Proprietary Limited, 7 to 9 York Street, Bulleen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Laura Main. Councillor Deirdre Desmonte, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Laura Main, would you like to speak to the motion? With no speakers, I'll put that to a vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Item 16, urgent business. Councillors, there's no items of urgent business. Item 17, council reports and question time. Councillors, would anyone like to provide a report or raise a question? Thank you, Councillor Anna Chen.
I do have two reports to make. And Doncaster Rovers Soccer Club is a community-based soccer club established in 1967. On 25th February, this Sunday, the club organized the first ever Family Day in many, many years. And it was a great success. And they hosted hundreds of happy families with mini World Cup, fantastic food options, and jumping castle and slide, face painting, temporary tattoos. They also invited councillors and our CEO to attend, and I believe that we all had a good time. And this could not be done without the volunteers of all ages. I had a temporary butterfly tattoo professionally applied on my wrist by a young volunteer. Is here. And it is still beautifully rested on my wrist. And I wish to thank the club for inviting us to be part of this very exciting community event. And my second report is about the Lunar New Year. And we all know that Lunar New Year in 2024 started on 10th of February and ended with the Lantern Festival on 24th of February. This year is the Year of Dragon. There were many events organized by our local Chinese community with lion and dragon dance performances to ward off evil and spirits and invite good luck in. They also kept onlookers entertained. Food laden with symbolic well wishes, meanings either based on appearance or word association, just like other old cultures around the world. 2024 is the Year of Dragon, and dragon is associated with a host of positive qualities such as nobility, wealth, and wisdom. The Year of Dragon is anticipated to bring auspicious opportunities and exciting advancements for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anna Chen. Do I have any other councillors who would like to provide a report or raise a question? Councillor Stephen Mayne.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I'd just like to comment that I think 2 budgets ago we had a submission from the Bulleen Templestowe Football Club asking for some new lights. And we've spent the $300,000, put the new lights in. I think the footy club scheduled 2 games last year, and they were blown away by the success of them and the vibe. And I've just been told that they've scheduled 19 night games this year. So, you know, build it and they will come. It's a great example of upgrade the facilities and people will use it. Had a similar experience recently on a Saturday, just going for a wander around the community, and couldn't get a park anywhere near the athletics track. And I went in there and I asked them, what is this event? And they said, this is one of the seniors programs where they, whole of Melbourne, including Geelong, have seniors competitions at particular tracks. And this is a great facility, they said, and you've invested $1 million in the new track. So we schedule it quite often to come here. And so there's people all over Melbourne come into Manningham to enjoy the $1 million new athletics tracks that we've done. Similarly, on Saturday, driving home from our strategy day, I popped into the baseball club. $3 million new facility just opened, and the view from the second deck, just watching the baseball from the second deck, was a magnificent view. I think the only better sporting view in Manningham is the second deck of Reich's Reserve, where we've built the 2-storey pavilion for the Manningham Cricket Club. And you sit up there and you can watch both ovals. And it just reminds me, and after I saw the athletics and popped into the Manningham Cricket Club, I then thought, we're about to spend $1 million fixing up redoing the play equipment at Ruffy Lake Park on Victoria Street. I might pop in and just say farewell to it, see what it's like. There must have been over 100 people there at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The barbecues were packed, and it just makes you really proud to see the community using the facilities. Even before you've done the upgrade, in the case of Ruffy Lake Park, but using the facilities, whether it's the baseball or the athletics or the Reichs, and scheduling night games. It's just a nice story about our capital works program delivering to the community.
Councillor Stephen Mayne. Do I have any other councillors who would like to provide a report or ask a question? Thank you, Councillor Andrew Conlon.
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to bring the CEO's attention to a safety issue in terms of roads. And I'd appreciate if maybe we could look at that coming back to either an SPS or council. And it's particularly in regard to the 2 lanes heading, I'll get it right, east down Reynolds Road, where it hits Springvale Road, which is a T intersection, and then very inconveniently turns into 1 lane within about 50 metres of the intersection. And I know a number of people who have nearly got cleaned up there because they haven't realised what's happening, or someone's coming down their left and they've cut in. And it's the same for the traffic turning right from Springvale Road onto Reynolds Road, because you just go across the bridge there. And I understand that there's some process that we're going through at the moment with Vic Roads and Department of Transport in terms of that stretch of road, as I understand it. But I would really appreciate understanding what our options are in terms of improving safety, because I do believe it's not necessary for that. And there's quite a number of things I think we can do in terms of treatment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Councillor Laura Mayne.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd love to report on what was yet another wonderful Potters Expo down at Warrandyte last weekend. I'd love to congratulate Jane and her team for doing such a great job every single year, year after year, using one of Manningham's grants. I'm proud of all of our grants, but it's one that I'm particularly proud that we're able to facilitate and assist. So they always bring in international artists, and they bring in people from all across Melbourne who want to get their pottery for the year. For me, it's where I always get the mugs that my family uses. They're great for a cup of coffee in the morning. And it's just great at acknowledging the history of the potters in Warrandyte and continuing on their legacy. And it was also great weather, which is always a plus. So yeah, just love to congratulate the team. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Laura Mayne. Councillors, do I have any other reports or questions? Thank you. Item 18, confidential reports. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Conlon.
Yes, I'd like to move that the council close the meeting to the public pursuant to section 66(1) and 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act 2020 to consider the following item. Item 18.1, Future Directions Regional Assessment Service.
Do I have a seconder for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Diamante. I'll put that to a vote. All those in favour to close the meeting? Thank you. And that's carried unanimously. We'll now be closing the meeting to the members of the public and ending the live stream to consider this confidential report. Thank you for joining the meeting this evening.